Brian, when you deal with people who are going through change, are you helping them find that direction, or they've already come to that decision that it's time for a transformation of some sort?
Yes, both.
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 Okay.
Some come and, I think one client was a very successful financial advisor. And when he came, he said, I've been sitting on this plateau. He said, and I know I can climb higher. I just need to be held accountable for doing that, basically. Very often it's, I'm not feeling fulfilled in what I'm doing anymore. And I'm not sure where I want to go. Mm-hmm. And I know I want to go somewhere else. And so now it's helping define where that somewhere else is.
Mm-hmm. Don't you see a lot of the time that people kind of get stuck in a rut and they're doing what they've always done, where a version of that will still work, but if they're not constantly striving to find something new, to look at different traits, then they kind of get stuck in that same cycle of just kind of hovering over where they could be.
One of the standout phrases that I know you have used, that I've heard you use, Brian, and that is trying to change your perspective so that, as you say, your gremlins become your gurus.
Right.
Could you explain? I mean, it almost sounds like it doesn't need to be explained, but I love when you do explain it. So please.
We all have gremlins. Those things that keep us on the path that we're on, that hold us back from trying something new, that I was just coaching a client right before this, who is, for the first time in his life, in his 50s, going into business for himself. Mm-hmm. And he started talking about how he was pricing his services, and I challenged him. And as he explored it, he ultimately brought it back to his father telling him that rich people go into business for themselves because people like him have to work for someone else to get a paycheck.
I'm sure you run into people who are starting businesses and are involved in the sales process. That has to be some tricky business too.
I know from the digital industry, I see this all the time where people are working their tail off, thinking they're working hard, working 50, 60, 70, 80 hours a week, and not achieving the goals that they have because either A, their goals aren't properly set, B, they don't have small incremental goals to reach that larger goal, and inevitably they don't have a system or a path or a process that's proven to get them there.
We don't think of storytelling as being a process, but yet I do advocate and teach and coach a process for discovering what those stories are and then fashioning them into usable anchors that you can rely on.
Paul, if I can speak a little bit more to story. In my TEDx talk, I quoted Lori Gottlieb, who did a TED talk on story. And she said, the way we narrate our stories shapes our lives. If we can change our story, we can change our life.
Right.
And so with my transformation clients, the first place we actually go is to create story. But it's not a story about, in 5 years, I want to retire and move to the shore of Costa Rica. It's, right. I did this. I overcome all these hurdles. I had to learn Spanish and sell the house and redefine my relationship with my children. And my husband and I woke up this morning smelling the ocean breeze in our home on the shore of Costa Rica.
Right.
That's a head, heart, gut story. That's a story that actually begins to lay new neural networks. You know, like I said before, the mind processes story like lived reality. So you're actually building the neural networks that help you feel what it's like once you've achieved it.
What struck me when you were talking about that is, I don't care what you're doing in life, if it's, management, garbage man, salesperson, whatnot. 98 to 99% of us are always afraid that someone's going to find out our weakness, what we're not good at, what we're ashamed of, and stuff like that. And when you look at giving these talks and stuff like this, I've seen too many of them from the time, whether you're talking about Lou Holtz or Sid Ziegler or any of these people in here that are successful, that have come up and talk about their success, they start off with their failures, because without failures, you never gain success. And I think until we embrace or are comfortable enough talking about our failures, do we ever reach our potential?
Yeah, and really I find that in working with my clients and working with the individuals within organizations that I do work with, giving themselves permission is a huge part of making that step. As you said, giving yourself permission to rewrite the story, giving yourself permission to be vulnerable enough when you're in a business context, because that seems like the last place in the world that you could possibly be vulnerable.
Many years ago, I was working at the University of Minnesota, and I won't go into all the details, but I ended up in the private conference room of Kirk Carlson, who, among other things, created Radisson, Ask Mr. Foster Travel, very successful businessman, and the university was looking at setting up a travel relationship with him. He spent the entire lunch talking with the team that I had brought there about his failures, the bad business decisions he had made, and how they shaped him into the person he is.